You're still watching Prime Morning. It's time for us to have a conversation that we've been speaking about. This is the segment called Prime Inside, and today our conversation is based on suicide. Now, today we want to narrow it down to situations of life. Now, when they become so unbearable, the dynamics and complexities of suicidal behavior and how to prevent it. And of course, today I have two people here who are going to help us with regards to this particular conversation. They are experts in that field. One speaks with the people in the community. He works with them, speaks with them, so he can actually give us a first-hand information with regards to what happens in the community and what goes on in the minds of people who want to commit suicide. Then we have a doctor who is also going to tell us exactly what happens when they come to the hospital, the conversation that she has with them. And so my guests for today are Frances Yeboah, who is a community psychiatry nurse specialist, Department of Psychiatry in Korle-Bu. Good morning, Frances.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm blessed.
Great. And also Dr. Abigail Harding. She is a psychiatrist with the Department of Psychiatry, Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're doing well.
I'm very well.
Now, as I said earlier, and on research basis, 1,500 people in Ghana kill themselves annually. Quite alarming, isn't it? 1,500 people. You ask yourself, is it a mental issue? Is it a situational issue? Well, today we want to narrow it down to situational issues. We know that there is mental disorder or suicidal disorder as well. That's a contributing factor. But it looks like situations makes it worse. And what are some of the situations that could lead one into having suicidal thoughts? And how can we prevent it from happening? And so I have my guests here, and we are definitely delving into that conversation. Let me start with you first, Frances. Since you deal more with the community, you hear from the people what exactly leads them to have suicidal thoughts.
Thank you very much. And I would like to use this opportunity to greet whoever is watching us from home. There's so many things that causes a person to commit suicide. In the community, you hear a lot of things that people say. One of the most interesting things is that people don't really know that people that have psychiatric history are very vulnerable when it comes to these suicide issues. So people with pre-existing mental health challenges are very vulnerable. So we normally educate people on that you have anyone that has such history, it means that the person needs to be alerted on that. We also have financial issues. In this era where it seems like a lot of people are battling with issues of unemployment and financial crisis, which sometimes it becomes stresses of life. These are things that put burden on them, and when they are seeking for solutions and they are not getting, it actually makes them more vulnerable or susceptible of thinking of suicide.
Let me bring you in here, Doc. For you, it's more of the people that come to seek help in the hospital before you even get to know that these people have suicidal thought. Such people, what are the situations that causes them to have these suicidal thoughts?
So, as Frances mentioned, we have a lot of cases where we have people who have pre-existing mental health conditions, but the suicidal thoughts or suicidal behavior is compounded by the situational issues that they are going through. So, in particular, relationships, breakups, divorce, financial issues, someone can't pay their school fees, unemployment, all those things come together, and then when I see patients in the clinic, they tell me some of these things, that these are the reasons why they think they want to end it all.
No, I'm just wondering, relationship, is that the highest?
It is one of the highest, divorce and breakup. Yeah, it is one of the top reasons why we get a lot of people thinking of carrying out suicide.
Why is relationship the highest? Because yes, divorce. So relationship, we are just making a relationship because divorce falls under relationship, heartbreak falls under relationship, all of that. So how come that is the highest cause of situational suicidal thoughts?
Well, there's a lot of emotional investments that goes into relationships. Some would even say also financial investments that go into it. So when you look at the different factors, someone attached so closely to someone possibly for many years. They've invested so much of their life into them. It can take a toll on their mental well-being, and then that makes them more likely to have these thoughts. And then when you combine it with the mental vulnerability that they may have, because we know about 95% of people who carry out suicides have a mental health condition. So when you compound it, it just makes it more likely that they'll carry out suicide.
Let me come to you, Francis. You want to say something before I ask?
Oh, I think she has said it all. But when you look at the age brackets of those that commit suicide, it is mostly below the age of 35 years. So 18 and 35 years. Those are the highest number of people that normally commit suicide. And you can see that good and better relationship mostly start from that places, or those age brackets. So if someone wants to begin a relationship, mutual relationship with someone, it normally starts from there. If someone wants to invest financially in something, it normally starts from there. So ages between 18 and 35 are active years of someone's life.
Right. Now, will one also be able to say that sometimes it's the upbringing of the person? Maybe the person has been brought up in a way that the person doesn't have so much self-belief. Hence, when the person gets into a relationship, if the relationship is breaking, the person feels, okay, if I kill myself, I'm okay. Because there are people that are like, listen, if this relationship is over, I'm jumping into the next relationship, and that's it.
Yes, it's very true that someone's makeup or their personality, how they are, and how we are as people, it comes from how we are raised. So it's, yes, if you don't have enough self-esteem, self-belief, resilience, then yes, you are more likely to be vulnerable to emotional attacks, or when you have a heartbreak or a divorce, you are more likely to be broken down, and then you can't pick yourself up.
Exactly. And to add to what she's saying, you see, our traditional beliefs has a toll on us when it comes to some of these things. When you go to some parts of, even in Ghana here, not even the world, in Ghana here, you mostly hear certain things like "Enimguasi and Fatao Kaniba" in quote. So when you are born, bred, raised from a family, that you will normally hear some of these things that they keeps on saying it. "Enimguasi and Fatao Kaniba." You know. You see, these things that growing up, we have it in our minds because we mostly get predisposed to it. So growing up, we try to be hard in our own self, where things that we need to pour to people, where we need some help from other people, because we've heard from our families that to be a man, you need to be in a form of person, you need to be in a form of shape where you become too hard, that you are above emotions. So these kind of things has toll on us. So when we are battling with issues in life where we will need some sort of support from professionals or people around us, we have those kind of preconceived ideas in us, and it makes that very hard to be softened for problem solving because we've heard from where we are coming from that Enimguasi and Fatao Kaniba.
I can't fail.
Exactly.
So let's look at the statistics here. Okay, looking at these statements that you are making, the ratio, men and women, who commit suicide more?
Sure. So it's obviously men.
Men?
It's obviously
what's the
men.
ratio?
I think men are twice the number of females that commit suicide every year. And that boils down to a lot of factors that contributes to.
Let's talk about some of the factors that boils down to that.
Like I said, naturally, like I related the traditional beliefs, we assume men are supposed to behave in a certain way in our life. So when a man is facing crisis in life, you know, in the journey of life, a lot of things comes together. And emotions has nothing to do whether you are a female or you are a male. So when a man is facing crisis, when he assume or is assumed by the community that you don't need to cry, you need to be hard on yourself. So when a man is trying to exhibit his emotions, you hear other men saying that, are you not a man? Don't cry.
Man up.
Exactly. So some of these things makes us, you know, keep the emotions within us. We don't really create an outlet that will let the emotions get an exit. And when there's a built-up tension in you, these are the things that contribute to a lot of suicidal ideations, because when there's a built-up tension in you, it actually, exits, and some can exit in a form of mental illness or maybe behaving weird or other things. So these are the things that most of the time it does happen.
And for the women, so we'll say because women are able to exert their emotions, that is why the suicide ratio is a bit lower?
Not necessarily. It would be interesting to note that in the statistics, although men complete suicide about 2 to 3 times more than females, females attempt more than males. But because males use more lethal means, that is more methods that are fatal, they are more likely to complete suicide. So you have a higher number of males that complete suicide, but a higher number of females who attempt suicide. And females are we know that females have more emotional challenges, so they are more likely to express it and try to find a way to end it all. So they attempt more, but they use less lethal means.
I don't want to ask the lethal means because I don't want to encourage somebody out there to go try any means at all. But I want you to get involved in the conversation. Do send in your messages on our WhatsApp number. As we are streaming live on Facebook, you can leave your message there as well. We'll be glad to read it live on air. We are speaking about situational hazards that actually do cause suicidal thought. And of course, we are hearing that relationship is one of the top. And there are other things as well. Have you ever had suicidal thought? What actually caused it? Do send in your message. If you ever tried it, send in your message. Let's read it. Doc is here to help. And of course, our nurse is also here to help. Francis Yabua, he's the nurse, community nurse, to help with this conversation. And Dr. Abigail Harding is also our doctor and building to help us with regards to this conversation. If you know anybody who has suicidal thought, you've tried all means, but it's failed, do send in your messages and we'll definitely be glad to read it. But let me ask you this. Like you said, women try it and everything. What about finances? Maybe the woman's own is more drawn to relationship. What about finances?
Yes, finances are a huge challenge for a lot of people, not just women, but men as well. And it's one of the reasons why people or the factors that can contribute to suicidal ideation or thoughts. And people going through financial distress, having to pay school fees, having to pay their own bills, and all those can contribute to that kind of behavior, those thoughts.
But having to pay school fees, you've given birth, didn't you know you pay school fees? Why is it given, suicidal thoughts?
Yes, it's true that it's true that yes, you've given birth, you have children, you have to look after them, but things happen in life. We all go through ups and downs in life. So maybe at that point, someone is at a particular down. Unfortunately, they think that they are alone in the world. There's nothing that can be done for them. Nobody is going to help them. They feel all alone, and so they think that let me end it all. So even though, yes, people know that they have responsibilities and they took up these responsibilities, we hope willingly, sometimes things happen. Things don't go the way we plan. And so you may fall into one of those hard times and then decide that
you want to end it all.
You want to end it all, exactly.
You want to say something?
Exactly. You see, the outcome of life, you can't really predict. We always encourage people to plan, to have a goal in life, but nobody knows tomorrow, as he says. So when you are not having finance or when you are having money on you, when you need certain basic things for your life becomes meaningless. And that boils down to your coping mechanisms in life. So if your coping mechanisms in life is very poor, what happens is that whenever you are confronted with challenges, issues, you resolve back to things that can take away your life. So we all have plans, but on the journey of life, a lot of things happen. And that is why people who are confronted with such challenges in life mostly sometimes think of suicide.
What about society? What can society do? Because in instances like this, there are people who have a suicidal thought, but it's never drawn on them. It's never written on them. They are walking around. They seem so happy. And the next thing you hear, the person has taken their life.
So one of the things we can do as a society is what we are doing now, talking about it, being open about these things. We need to be able to speak more about suicide and the kind of challenges that people are going through that pushes them to carry out suicide. So reducing the stigma, talking about it, being aware about it, and also being open to other people who are experiencing suicidal thoughts, not mocking them or belittling them that what you are going through is nothing, or man up, be hard, because times are tough for everyone. So why are you the only one who wants to carry out suicide? We are all struggling. That is not the way to help someone. And genuinely, they may be different and have different vulnerabilities. So that's why these things, emotional problems or financial problems, are affecting them differently.
You have spoken to a lot of them. Yeah. You know what is in their head. Let me ask you this. What makes them think that when they die or after committing suicide, the grass is greener, they will have peace?
Well, let me refer to one particular instance where I had a young man who, school age, university age man, and he thought that by ending it all, he wouldn't be a burden to his family, because they wouldn't have to pay fees for him to attend school. Because of this challenge in the family, his parents were arguing all the time. It affected the relationship between his family. His siblings, his younger siblings, also had challenges because parents had to pay for his fees. How were they going to pay for their fees as well? They are all in school, but he's going to university. So he thought, well, Doc, if I end it all, then my parents wouldn't be fighting anymore. My siblings will have money. They can look after them. So let me just end everything and go, so that everything will be peaceful. That's the thoughts that were going through his mind.
So then we can also say that family can be blamed as well, because with this example you're given, the situation that is happening in the family.
So like what Doc said, these are the things that happen, that runs through the heads of people that commit suicide. But in other ways, we say that they are sometimes also being selfish. The issue is that when you commit suicide, there are a lot of dreadful things that happens at your back. When one person commits suicide, it puts about almost 200 people in an uncomfortable state. Because victims that commit suicide realize that the whole family now have this feeling of guilt and shame. There is this feeling, uncomfortable feeling around them. So if you have that mindset of committing suicide, you should always think of the people that you are living with them, because you put them in a state where it is very uncomfortable. Do you get it? And these are the things that we need to actually look out for. They have a whole lot of things that sometimes people that commit suicide talks about. But my concern, like we said, I'm in the community. So when a person commits suicide and you get engagement with people, the family members, you realize that the person is dead and gone. But the issues left behind are things that, honestly, you could find out that is really draining the entire family. So if someone commits suicide, you should always think of your back. Dying is not just the solution. You leave untouched issues that can remain in the family for years.
Does it also cause other people in the family to want to commit suicide?
So we know that people who have carried out suicide, the family have a higher risk of also carrying out suicide. So for example, if a father carried out or died by suicide, the child is now more likely or has a higher risk of also carrying out suicide as he gets older. So it's not that...
Why? Why is that so?
That may be due to different factors. One, mental health conditions. We've spoken about that it could run in family. So whatever mental health condition the father had, the child could also have. Now, the child could also have learned that behavior as a coping mechanism, a coping strategy from the family. So that could also be another factor.
Now, we just want to know, you're saying maybe it's the behavioral part and it could be a mental fact. If I live with someone and the person has suicidal thought, how am I able to tell that this person has suicidal thoughts? Because it's not everybody that can talk about it.
Very true. So we know that when someone has suicidal thoughts, sometimes they are not able to verbalize it or come out openly and say it. But the thing to do as a family member or a loved one is to encourage the person to be open about the thoughts that they are.
Know?
Exactly. So there are different behaviors that people put across when they are thinking of carrying out suicide. So things like putting your house in order, packing your items, making sure that things are in place because you know that you are leaving things, you are leaving the world, making statements like, I'm going to a better place, I'm traveling home, I'll not be here for some time, so look after yourself well, I'll be gone soon. Those kind of statements give you an idea, and that kind of behavior where you're putting everything in place, making sure that you leave things good or in a good state for your family members who are left behind, hoping that, like Francis said, they will not go through those challenges that you are anticipating when you die. So those are some of the things you can do. But again, even though you don't know what is going through the person's mind, it's still good to be open to the person's emotions. Allow them or give them the space, the opportunity to speak out their emotions, to verbalize them.
There are some people who are introverts.
Sure.
You know,
Yes,
and they might never say the things that you're saying. They might never say, oh, I'm going to a better place. They'll just keep quiet about it. How do you identify the symptoms with these people?
There are non-verbal communications. It is not always that a person will talk about it. You know, sometimes a person will pick a phone and text you and say goodbye when a person don't even need to say goodbye. Then sometimes you begin to ask, why is the person saying goodbye? In his head or her head, she has planned of something to do. So you're just saying goodbye. Sometimes you'll be there and the person who tells you, I'm dashing you this money. You ask why? You don't even know. She said, I feel like giving it to you.
Maybe
like
God has directed.
That is what, you know, we are spiritual people.
Yeah,
so sometimes
I feel like maybe
it's
my time. God says you should come and give me the money.
Yes, you might be thinking that God has even answered your prayers.
Yeah.
Because you are praying for money and all of a sudden someone has sent you a huge sum of money in your account. That take it. They just want to, you know, they are, like Doc said, trying to put things, arranging themselves because they know they are going. So I'm giving this to you, I'm giving this to you, I'm giving that to you. I think these are all signs that should alert you, gives you the red flags that this person really want to commit suicide. Some will say it, very extrovert people will say it, but the others keep it. And that is why men normally outweigh the number of females that commit suicide. You know, men keep things to themselves. You hear something, boom, a firearm or something, and he's gone. Because they really talk to themselves and keep things inside. And it's always like that.
But I mean, yes, I get you. But I still want to know what I can, because sometimes I should be able to pick a sign that this person has gone silent all of a sudden, or this person is refusing to eat, or this person's style, sense of fashion has even changed, or this person has become hostile. Shouldn't that get me going to talk to the person and asking the person, is everything all right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
As you are here, it's like a family. You know each and every worker here, your crew members, and you know how they react to you or relate to you. And most of the time, when you find out that someone all of a sudden has isolated himself or herself, withdrawn, but you know this person, that this is the type of person when we come to work, he's all over, he will ask you, how are you? A day comes and he's moody, you ask him what is wrong, he doesn't want to talk. You give him food, he doesn't want to eat. You see him crying, you see him, you see his face, you could see that things are really worrying him. Those are the non-verbal gestures that should let you know there are certain things. There's no people that can talk about it.
Yeah.
So these are clues that have to get.
So then how do I help? How can somebody help such a person?
So the first thing is to seek help for the person. So there are various avenues or various places where they can go to get help. We have hospitals, we have psychiatric units, we have different places. Francis is also a community psychiatric nurse, so he's available. You can contact any of us. We are ready and open and always willing
you
to
know,
help.
I think I've heard of something. Until somebody accepts that they have a problem, they never avail themselves. So somebody like that, the person hasn't said that I have a problem. So how do you take the person to see a specialist? How can I start? What help can I give to that person before even seeking a specialist advice?
I think you know the person. People that go through situations like this, most of the time become psychopathological, where it really affects their mindset. They lack insight. So it's very hard for themselves to say that I'm going to seek for professional guidance. So we around the person can easily just call probably our department and discuss the person, that probably the way and how you are seeing the person to a professional. A professional will be able to know that, no, from the way you are talking about this patient, he or she will need help. Then we take on from there. We have so many things that help. We used to help a person like that. We know that he's not in a good state of mind, so we can take on from there. There are acts that governs people like that, so we can also take on from there when you come.
We know that suicide is no more criminal, right? So it's been decriminalized. I got a message coming in. Hello, guys. Good morning. Please, I want to know what next after Parliament decriminalizes suicide. From Michael Eduaye, he said, I appreciate the good work. Okay, so what happens after it's been decriminalized?
Okay, so now that it's been decriminalized, we hope that more people would be open to speaking about suicide, and more people would come forward, be more encouraged to bring their loved ones, because it's no longer something that is criminalized. They will not be fined or jailed because of attempting suicide, and rather they would have the opportunity to see specialists, psychiatrists, psychologists, nurses to help them.
We heard that if you show suicide victims love, it takes away the thought. Is this true?
Well, being with the person is a form of support, encouraging the person, letting them know that they are not alone. There's somebody there to support them. That helps them with their thoughts. That's why when we find somebody who is suicidal, we encourage them to have support, somebody who will be with them, somebody who will be staying with them, because having that human connection helps them understand that they are not alone in the world. There's somebody by them to support them through this difficult time.
What about money? Can money help them out?
Exactly. In addition to what Doc said, there are a host of factors that comes together before someone wants to take away probably his or her life. So we put all those things, you will show love, you make sure, professionals comes in to help the person. Unfortunately, people use judgmental approaches to issues like this. So when we judgmental approaches, like in trying to solve the issue, you should realize that you are just prolonging the duration of the person committing suicide, but you've not actually helped the person.
Right.
It becomes inevitable, but definitely the person might commit suicide when you use the judgmental approach. So that's why professionals are very important in this era. When you are helping the person, make sure you link the person to a professional who use professional ways to help the person. We have decriminalized this suicide, but we need to provide a lot of good support system for people. Like I said, there are a host of factors. We need to provide.
I think earlier we even spoke about job losses also being a factor, unemployment a factor. Economy is tough. Is it also increasing the suicidal thought? Are you hearing it in the communities you are going to? Obviously,
I think you need not to be told. The economy is tough. People are complaining. There are a lot of unemployment. People in the in the community. There are a lot of people that are finding themselves in a social hardship way of living. People can't even provide for themselves. People have children that they are not getting food to eat. A whole lot of things. So when a person thinks that, well, everything is not going on well, they think of probably ending their life, of which most of the time they think that that is the end of them. If they end their life, that is all. Nothing matters. Nobody's coming to, I'm not going to feel hungry to go and buy food. No lecturer or tutor is coming to me to ask for school fees, and they think that the silent as they go, that is the end of their problems. But it's not always like that, as we keep on saying.
It's not always like that. And, you know, some are Christians, some are Muslims, and they are committing suicide. But the question here is, these people know that there's heaven and there's hell, right? But at that time, do they know that if they commit such a, you know, act, there's a possibility that there's no peace at the end? Or that's not even a thing to think of?
Oh, well, for a lot of people, religion does help protects them or gives them additional hope and support that they wouldn't take their lives because they have the thought that they could go to hell or it's a sin. But what's important for us is that we don't approach them in a judgmental way. We understand that there are certain things you are going through, regardless of whether you are a Christian or you are a Muslim or you are a traditional believer. We know that anyone can experience these kind of thoughts, and it's not a stain on your spirituality or your religion that, or you are not strong in God enough, so that's why you are contemplating or thinking about suicide. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that there's something has affected you so badly. You are going through some emotional distress, financial distress, or some mental health condition that has pushed you to that level. And so we are always ready to help. Like Francis said, we use a non-judgmental approach. We are open. It doesn't matter whether you are an elder in the church or you are the imam or you are whoever. Anyone can experience these kind of thoughts.
Exactly. And in addition to that, people normally spiritualize issues. When people are battling with emotional and psychological issues, most of the time, you see them going to the churches. They are all good. But we should know that as human as we are, we have physical stuffs that most of the time, when we are battling with, we need physical people also to help us. So you can spiritualize it by always being at church. Pastors are doing their best helping. But we should always link the person to a professional who use professional means to help the person. It goes a long way to help.
There's one message coming in. We will definitely have to speak about the hope. How can we help these people when they come to you, what you do? But there's one here. Hi, good morning. I had a friend who had that thought because she had a strict father who takes her everywhere she goes, and this really got to her. She doesn't even use a phone or go out to see her friends. So I want to know how she can be helped because she is so isolated.
Okay, so yes, even though she's isolated, she has contact with her friend, so she can encourage herself to seek help. She can give her share words of comfort, encouragement to her that although she's going through this, it's not the end of, she doesn't need to end her life. There are ways we can help her. There are ways we can support her if she's willing to come and see us. If not, we have other avenues to help her. She can contact.
We have centers?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have different centers all around Ghana that are
easily accessible. But you see, I'll ask this question. I'm sorry, but let me ask you this question. If I come to the center speaks to me and helps me out, I go back and then my father is still treating me the same way. How is that suicidal thought out of my head?
Yes, so when we are treating a client, we end up treating the whole family.
Okay.
That is why when it comes to a place like Korle-Bu, we have a multidisciplinary team. So we have community psychologists, we have community psychiatrists, community psychiatric nurses, in such a way that when we assess the problem and realize that this problem, we need to get into the family, we have a team that helps the family. So the patient is the one that we are treating, the client is the goal, but we end up treating the whole family.
Okay.
At the end of the day, each and every one of the family members get his shares of treatment. And that is how it has been so far.
Okay. So then we go back into the centers. Where exactly are these centers and how easily accessible are the centers?
Okay, so in Accra, we have Korle-Bu Department of Psychiatry, that's at the teaching hospital, which is where Francis and I are based. But we also have the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, we also have Pantine Hospital, and then the various regional hospitals also have psychiatric units where you have psychiatric nurses who are based there. Also in Cape Coast, we have Ankafo Psychiatric Hospital. So there are different centers available. In the other regions where they don't have bigger facilities, they have units, psychiatric units. Where
Let me ask you this.
business.
Some people are committing suicide because of financial challenges. Going to these centers, is it free?
So we know how we manage these people. We know, and when we see people who have these challenges, we are ready and willing to assess them, help them. So it's not when you come, we ask you for money because you are having these thoughts. We assess based on your need. If you don't have the means to pay for it, we can still offer you the help that you need.
We recently got to know that a lot of people that commit suicide normally want people that will give them the listening ear. And that is why the Mental Health Authority came out with the hotlines. That's when you are feeling overwhelmed, there's feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, and you think that you want to talk to someone, a professional, you just call the hotline to hear a professional talking to you. From where we are coming from, when you have issues like that, you come in, you get professionals that at least will talk to you. Whatever the next steps will take, I think it will be discussed from there. It's my prayer that as we have decriminalized suicide in Ghana, we provide some of these avenues that will make people walk in freely and discuss their issues. Walk in freely and their emotional and psychological issues will be solved. As Doc said, we are workers of the Ministry of Health, and we have our limit when it comes to providing probably for the client. We are employed based on our expertise, but financial and other things depends on the government or whoever that employs us. We pray that they can have a step ahead, providing some of these things. It really goes a long way so that people can walk in. And the stigma is always there.
I was going to ask about the stigma
Doc was talking about going to Pantine, going to Accra Psych. For Korle-Bu, a lot of the conditions come there. So the stigma is not as severe as those days that you hear Pantine and probably Accra Psychiatry and the others. You know what? Mental illness has no respect of persons. Don't feel so stigmatized. These are some of the reasons why a lot of people are in their houses without coming for treatment. So when you tell them, my dear, the way I'm seeing you, I think you have to go to Pantine for treatment. The next statement from the person will be like, why do you think I'm mad? Do you understand? So, and sometimes because of the way we relate to such people, so we should make sure we should let people know that when someone is battling with suicide, it's an emotional issue, it can be related to mental health issue. The way we should go about it, we should be very careful how we stigmatize such people so that when we tell them go, they can gladly go. Like someone having diabetes, hypertension, can walk freely to a private physical hospital just for treatment. Let us encourage people around like that so that they can boldly walk in and get their problem solved. And it's not always when you come, you are given medications. Psychologists don't normally even use medications in their treatment. Their psychotherapy alone is able to get you back on your feet and live your normal life afterwards.
With what we are saying, someone will think that all suicidal thoughts are mental issues. Is it?
Well, we know that a large proportion of them are, and that's why I was saying that about 90 to 95% of people who carry out suicide have a mental health condition. So it may be something that has not been diagnosed, they've not been assessed because they've not been formally assessed. So that's why it's not been recognized by the family. But most of the time, yes, there's a lot of mental health conditions that maybe have not been identified, and that's why contributing to the
Exactly.
thoughts.
Right. So there's a message coming in, and she wants to know if she can share her story. Please go ahead and share it right now for us to read it on air. She says, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I really love your discussion this morning. I would have really loved to share a story about my girl here, but I don't know if this is the right time. Please, this is the right time. So please send it to us right now." Of course, Doc is here, and we also have our community nurse here who is also helping us with this discussion and talking about this. This is something that we don't have to, just let it, sweep it under the carpet. We have to talk about it and have a solution to all of these things. I mean, it's quite interesting to know that people feel, oh, I can't talk about this, I can't talk about that. It's the stigma.
Yeah. Sure, the stigma is really causing a lot of harm to people than good. And one thing that we have to know is that anything that affects your emotional and psychological state automatically becomes a mental health.
How can we kill the stigma? How can we do it?
So one of the things, as I said, that we are doing is to be more open about it, more open to talking about it and sharing our stories. And then we hope that by decriminalizing suicide too, that's also going to help reduce the stigma, because we are separating it from the criminal system, from the justice system, because it's even stigmatizing to hear that, hey, if my relative attempted suicide or tried to carry out it, the police are going to come for him. That's already, he's going to go to prison, he's going to pay a fine. That's already is stigmatizing in itself. So we hope that by separating these two, it will be less stigmatizing. And hopefully there will be more involvement or more research going into this area so that we can find out ways on how to prevent suicide.
Roughly, we know that the stigma is there and we are going to try to kill it. But how can churches and mosques also help people who have suicidal thoughts?
From the community, a lot of churches and mosques nowadays are really helping. They are helping by inviting professionals to give good mental health educations to the public. They've realized, a lot of them have come to accept that in helping to define a complete health, the person's physical state needs to be considered, mental, and to some level spiritual. So a lot of churches are inviting professionals these days to educate them on basic guidance in life, mental health challenges, issues, and other things. And I think they are also doing their quota, contributing to help to at least reduce the stigma. It's not, but at least it's better, than how it used to. These days, churches, some of the churches, especially the community, church of the churches that invite us just to, sometimes they even let us know a church member that is going through some of these mental health issues. And
encourage them to come and seek professional help.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So another one said, coming in, "Good morning, you are doing a wonderful program. I really like it. I just want to thank you. You are most welcome. We are here for all of you. So if you have anything you want to send, please go ahead and send it." This one said, he's going through a lot. Good morning, please, for such a wonderful program. Okay, thank you. All right. Just yesterday, a guy I know nearly gave up. He's going through a lot, and we have done our little we can. I wish I knew what little you can. But you see, this is where the issue is, where you said it might not take the person out of suicidal thought, but it will just prolong it before the person commits the act.
Exactly.
So such a person needs to seek help.
Exactly.
Okay, so is there a number that these people can get to you on and you speak? You said it's a hotline.
Yeah.
If we can put a hotline out there, we'll be grateful.
Okay, so I'm just looking for it.
Okay, so the message has come in saying, "I would like you to help me link him to one of your friends at the studio to call him." No problem. I think you can send him the number. You can send us his number. We'll give it to Doc so that they can call him and give him help, because at this time we need everybody alive. And suicide is not an option at all. Like I asked, earlier, with regards to them not knowing whether there's hell and there's heaven. And at that time, nobody even thinks about that. It's just, I just want to leave this. Maybe I'll have peace somewhere else. But when you leave, it even gets worse. with
for
what
those
you
left
for those
behind.
left behind. So we are trying to get you the hotline so that you can call the hotline. But if you want to leave the gentleman's number as well, we'll be glad to see that on our screen, and not on our screen but on our tablet, and then we read it out. Quite a sad one to hear that people are going through a lot, and he nearly gave up yesterday. If you know anybody who is going through a lot of challenges, this is a time for you to pick this number, give it to the person, let the person call for help. But they are at Korle-Bu, right?
Yes,
You're at
so
Korle-Bu.
exactly.
And tell us the services you render before you go.
Okay, so we offer a wide range of services, psychiatric and mental health services. We also provide psychological services. We have an occupational therapist, and we have the community mental health team who go out into the community, and there are different cadres of staff in that team. So the psychiatrist, nurse, occupational therapist, psychologist, and then we also have the substance use unit where they deal with addictive diseases, so problems with alcohol, other substances, increasing use of that.
Can addiction also lead to suicidal thoughts?
Substance use.
Substance
Yes, substance use, most especially alcohol.
Yeah.
Yes, it affects almost every part of the body.
Yeah, and even we've seen that people who are contemplating suicide increase their use of alcohol or other substances because they are trying to find a way to numb themselves from the pain that they are going through, the stresses that they are going through. They're trying to forget it all. So they would rather use something to self-medicate or to help themselves.
Right.
But we are trying to encourage them to come for assessment, to seek help.
Right. Do we have the number ready?
Yes, so so we have 030-296-0966. So you call Korle-Bu, and they will pick and direct you, listen to you and direct you to, I think, considering your problem, wherever that needs to be addressed.
The good thing about it is that we listen to your problems and help you before we even give you any bill whatsoever, and that's a good thing. Like we said, some people want to even end it all because of financial challenges. So imagine such a person will feel, I can't even pay hospital bills, so who am I going to talk to? So the good thing is that you can go seek help, and they are ever ready to help you. Thank you so much for being here today. We are very grateful. Now, next week, Tuesday, we'll talk about the decriminalization of this suicide act, because everybody is excited about it. But what next? We'll bring an extensive conversation about it right here on Prime Morning, where we'll have a lawyer come take a seat and explain everything to us. Thank you so much for being here. Super grateful. My guests for today have been Frances Yeboah, who is a community psychiatry nurse specialist with the Department of Psychiatry in Korle-Bu, and also Dr. Abigail Harding, who is a psychiatrist with the Department of Psychiatry at Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital. And of course, today we have discussed the dynamics and complexities of suicidal behavior and prevention. And we hope we've been able to help save a life out there. But the number has also been given. Please try as much as possible to call this number to seek for help. Thank you so much for watching the show, this segment.